Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I am happy to be here with you again. I had a lovely birthday, and for those who wish me well, thank you. I thank you so much for that. But now it's April 7th, and we are back talking about what's going on, in particular with taxes, and what's going on with the U.S. economy, which will have an impact on the rest of the world, and already is. So, we want to talk about that a little bit. But before we get started, if this is the first time that you've seen the channel, we thank you for joining us, and we hope that you will join us every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we do a live stream with you, the public, talking to you on DLive, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, taking your chats, your phone calls, hearing what you have to say about the issues that matter to us all, affecting everyone in the world. So anyone from across the world can join us live every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope you will. And if you're unfamiliar, we do long-form political commentary on this channel. So, with that said, let's get into taxes. Now, normally on April 15th of every year, taxes are due in the United States. This year, because of COVID, that has been pushed back to May 15th. Keep that in mind as you're doing your taxes. But one of the big things about taxes every year is who is paying and are they paying enough money? I mean, we hear that all the time. The rich don't pay enough. We have to get more money. There's just not enough money. And that's a very interesting question because we have to ask, is that correct? Is that true? Is the problem for the United States that we just don't make enough money? That we don't pull in enough money? I mean, it would seem so. You would think that there are just millions upon millions of people who are avoiding taxes, and we just don't have enough because people aren't paying their fair share, and therefore we can't spend on all the things that are really important for the American people. And if you believe that, I'm sorry to tell you, that's just not true. It's a lie. In fact, if we take a look, right now the United States debt is $28 trillion, which I believe is incorrect because it hasn't updated for all the COVID relief spending. That being said, we see that the United States government right now has actually spent $8 trillion. Normally in a year, we spend about $4 trillion. We have spent $8. And normally, we lose about $1 trillion a year because the taxes we bring in are 3.4, almost $3.5 trillion a year. This is according to the Congressional Budget Office. So the United States is overspending. And at the moment, we're overspending by more than 200%. This is a problem. And we're not going to throw a whole lot of numbers at you, but we want to get a context here and an understanding. You see, when we're spending and just spending and just spending like the $2.3 trillion infrastructure deal offered by Joe Biden, actually the first part of his infrastructure deal, you get to hear things like this from today. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York, she does represent or is supposed to represent me and the people in New York State, says that paid leave is infrastructure, child care is infrastructure, caregiving is infrastructure. That's a very interesting statement. In fact, when we go and we look at just one of the many comments that are made, I believe it was #Karen says, when you say stuff like this, it gives men permission to say women are stupid. These things aren't infrastructure. They are policies and systems that are critically lacking and therefore definitely hurt our economy and our people, but they're not infrastructure. Is paid leave, childcare, caregiving, are they infrastructure? No, not hardly. In fact, we know this, it's real simple. What is the definition of infrastructure? Infrastructure, which we hear all the time, is specifically the physical and organizational structures and facilities needed for their operation of a society or an enterprise. In other words, the buildings, the roads, the power, the water, it's the floors, the equipment. It is the objects, the things that make it possible to do what you want to do as a nation or as a business. So if the United States had no roads, we couldn't travel and go to work. If you didn't have power, you wouldn't be able to see anything or run computers. It's pretty straightforward. And most people would understand and realize that. But when you have politicians that are looking to gain power, that's different. See, what Senator Gillibrand is saying here is, give me your vote or you won't have paid leave, which already exists, childcare, which already exists, and caregiving, which already exists. This is a manipulation of your feelings, of your emotions, to give her more power, and therefore to give the Democratic Party more power. It gives you the implication that if you don't do this, you won't have this, even though it already exists. And that's kind of bad. And it's still absolutely incorrect. Now, we've talked about the economics of things many times here. Back in February, we were talking about the fact that 30% of businesses across the nation have already shut down because of the COVID-19 virus. And we know that at least 40% of businesses going forward are in trouble over the next 6 months. We've talked about the infrastructure bill by Joe Biden that, funnily enough, emphasizes unions and people of color at the exclusion of everything else. We were talking about it on April 1st. That they are targeting specific people and specific groups for political benefit. And it rings out like a group of pay-to-play politics. These happen to be the same major donors and contributors to the Democratic Party. Unions, one of the single largest groups, dedicating money towards a more progressive ideology. But that doesn't answer the question about infrastructure. It doesn't answer the question about where are your taxes going? And more importantly, are you paying too much in taxes? I want to go over the latest YouGov poll. YouGov poll, U.S. politics. And I want to focus at the moment at the first question they asked here, or the final question, I should say, that they asked today on April 7th. Do you trust the federal government to spend tax revenue effectively? 67% of the people responding said no. Is that a shock to anyone? 67% of Americans, people responding to the YouGov poll, said no. They don't think the United States government is spending their money well. And I'm going to get to that in 1 second, but I think this is important. We, as a nation, 2/3 of that nation, or at least as an example in this poll, show we don't trust the government. The government doesn't spend money well. They're horrible at it. And at the same time, our government is saying they need more money to spend on more things. More and more and more. There's always more money they're trying to get. Because again, they've already overspent. They already spent $8 trillion. And they're looking to spend even more. And that money has to come from somewhere. And it always comes from the same place. You paying taxes. But the latest thing that's been put out there is, well, we don't need to get it from everyone. We don't need everyone's taxes. We just need the taxes from the rich people. Matter of fact, in the YouGov poll, they mention that 49% of Americans think that they're paying their fair share of taxes. And they do say, and we have most people believe, 2/3 of the public believe that they have a duty to pay their taxes, that they pay their fair share. Okay. Even though 82% of people believe that the tax system is unfair. It's just a rigged system. It is not right. You're paying too much in taxes. Okay, what about corporate taxes? What about the businesses? And I hear this all the time. And yes, most people think that, according to this poll, 68% of people say we need to increase the corporate taxes. You know, I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday on my birthday, and they were talking about taxes and how much they're paying, and that businesses have to pay more. That this is one of the great things coming from the Biden administration, that now businesses will be forced to pay more money. And then I turned around and looked at the restaurant we had just left, and I said, "You mean that business? That's mom and pop restaurant? And if we increase their taxes, we know they're under 50% of their revenue because people can't go in. We're in New York State. They can't get back to their normal levels. They're struggling to keep the door open. And you're going to take away even more money from them. And our favorite waitress is going to be closed. Is going to lose their job. Because those taxes have to come from somewhere unless you want to pay more for the meal we just had." And the answer was, no, I don't want to pay more for the meal. Why would I pay more? And I'm not talking about that business. I'm talking about Amazon. Yes, but corporate taxes affect all businesses. Your local mom and pop, where you go for, I don't know, that local dinner. You go in for lunch. That place that fixes your shoes, the shoe repair, the bowling alley, the pool hall, movie theater, the local drugstore, grocery store, pharmacy. All of these are small businesses owned by individuals. And you're talking about raising their taxes. So when 68% of America says we want higher taxes for corporations, the media and people like Kirsten Gillibrand have made it seem like, well, only the big companies, the Amazons, they're the guys who are going to pay for all of this, not your local mom and pop store, which will close down because we've already been closing them down. 30% of them have already shut forever. 40% are looking to shut down in the next 6 months. So there is a disconnect that's going on here. People aren't realizing it. But who owns those businesses? Those are multimillionaires. Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. Multi-billionaires. George Soros, Oprah, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders. They're all millionaires. They all can afford extra money, even though not one of those individuals I've just mentioned has ever donated of their own will extra money to the United States government that you can do at any time. And in fact, the IRS collects about $1 million a year from voluntary donations. You can give money. If I've given $1 to the IRS out of my own free will as a donation, I've given more money than Oprah and Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates combined. That's terrifying. Because they just won't give the government their money. They just won't give the money because they don't trust the government spending either. But everyone says, but they're multimillionaires. They can afford to spend more. And most people, according to this poll, 75% do not believe that multimillionaires and more importantly, wealthy Americans do not pay their fair share in taxes. 75% think that. Well, that's kind of interesting because I thought about it. And I decided to double check on the federal income. Who is actually paying taxes? Who's paying the most in taxes? And it's kind of interesting because when you actually look at it, the top 1%, they pay 40% of all the taxes that are being collected. They pay 40% of this number. Over $1.6 trillion. They're spending, that's on their personal spending, not including the businesses they own. They're paying your taxes. In fact, if you look at it, the top 50% of all taxpayers pay 97% of all taxes. The bottom 50% pay 2.9, about 3% in taxes. Here's the funny part. Do you know that the top 50% make $500,000 a year on average? The bottom 50% make $43,000 a year. That means that if you're watching this right now and you're the average American, you make less than $43,000 a year, and on average, you're paying actually about 13% in your taxes. Excuse me. The bottom 50%, to be exact, pay about 3.4% in taxes. That's it. That's the bottom 50% pay 3.4% in taxes. You're not paying taxes, and the rich are. And they're paying for almost everything. Every year when you get a refund, for the millions upon millions of people who get a refund, that wasn't because of what you paid. That's because the rich already paid your taxes and paid extra. That's their money coming. That's why you can get your money back. They already paid for it. The top 50% paid 97% of all the taxes. You paid 3%. So the rich are, in fact, paying that. Now, you may say, well, Mike, why is that important? It's important because if we increase, who owns the Amazons? Who owns the big businesses? Who owns the small businesses? They tend to be the people in the top 50%. And not all of them are making $500,000 a year. That's your small mom and pop who are making $50,000, $60,000, $75,000 a year. And they're working with 2-3 employees. And each of those employees make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year. That's what's moving it forward. But when we increase these taxes, those businesses, they don't exist. But the Democrats, Senator Warren, Senator Jayapal, and Boyle, they're saying, well, we just need to charge more money to these people. We just need to make them pay more. But wait a minute. The government is spending more than anyone is collecting. Even if we got more money from them, the government's already spending more money than they could possibly bring in. Is that really helping anyone? Is that really helping? The government has spent 200% more than it has spent on an average year. Every year we spend at least about 10 to 25% more than we bring in taxes every year. And they're already paying 97% of all the taxes in the nation. Do you really think that taking more money from them is going to help? And then they want to have a 40% exit tax. If you want to leave the United States, if you want to give up, you say, oh, you know what? I'm leaving. I don't agree with Joe Biden, the Biden administration. I don't believe in socialism and the social progressive movement. I don't want to be part of the Democratic Socialists of America. And you say, well, I can go to England. I can go to Japan or Germany or Canada. Go to any of these other countries. Now they want to punish those people who are already being punished because they lose the Constitution, they lose the amendments, they lose the freedoms of America. They want to punish them further by saying, well, we're going to charge you 40%. And the question is that supposed to help punishing people? So you lose your freedom, your right to choose. Because the saying used to be, well, if you don't like it here, go somewhere else. And now we're saying, oh, no, you can't go somewhere else. We're going to take your money. We don't want you to take your stuff that you earned, that you created, that's yours. You can leave, but you got to leave your stuff. Since when? And why? If they're free Americans and they can make free choices, and if they choose, like so many of our entertainers promised us, that they would leave from America if President Trump had gotten elected, that they were going to go away, and they didn't. And no one was trying to punish them by taking 40% of everything they owned and everything they had earned. Why are we doing it to others now? Because the Democrats, like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, wants to promise you that, well, if we take more from someone else, we'll have it to give to you. The idea is redistribution of wealth. That's it. They want to redistribute your income. They want to take it from someone else and give it to someone else. Except here's the problem. They want to give it to people that don't deserve it. Here's an article from the Daily Mail. Somebody would kidnap me. I'm scared. It's a migrant boy who was abandoned in the desert on his own. And you've probably seen these videos of this young boy by himself walking through the southern desert of the United States to get into America because he was left on his own, and he would have died if it weren't for U.S. Customs finding him and saving his life. That happened last week. We just found out about it today. And that's directly because of the Biden administration. That's because of the policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And let's not forget, President Joe Biden last month, in March, named Vice President Kamala Harris to lead the administration's efforts on finding a long-lasting solution for the immigration crisis that they have created. 180,000 immigrants have come into the United States since the Biden administration has taken over. 19,000 unaccompanied migrant children have come to the United States, and they are explicitly stating, when we ask the parents of those children, when we ask the illegal aliens, why are they coming to America now? It's because Joe Biden opened the doors. This is part of that question we had on infrastructure and the fact that nobody believes the government is spending the money well. 67%. Because we know our government isn't just doing things, they're doing things for a progressive socialist America. They want a political outcome. They want to take your money and they want to give it away. Matter of fact, in New York right now, there is a debate about giving $3.5 million to illegal aliens who have broken our laws and to give them money. Does that sound fair? Can you imagine if you live in New York State, $3.5 billion, about $28,000 per person. That's what they want to give away. $28,000 per person of your taxes. And that's without the increase in taxes, which is going to drive up the cost of everything. Because every time they increase taxes, things cost more money. It's called inflation. So imagine if you're in New York State and you lost your job because it shut down forever, and you can't get another job, and you're considering whether you need to leave the state like 1.8 million other people, and you find out that the taxes that are coming out of your pocket every day for everything you buy in New York State, as an example, that's going to go to some criminal who broke the law and is evading the law, and they're going to give them $28,000. Even though it's illegal for them to work in this country, even though it's illegal for them to be in this country, even though it's illegal for them to get aid from the government, they're going to take your money and give it to a person who's a criminal. And then they are inviting people to send their kids to our border, through our desert, alone, for us to take care of them too. You know, when I think about it, it's kind of scary. And it's kind of disappointing. And it does explain the desperation that's going on right now, where Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is saying, well, all these things that are very emotional, they're part of it too. Give us more money. Give us more power. They're really not trying to help you. They're not really trying to help you. They're really trying to help themselves. They're really trying to help everyone except you. It may be a hard pill to take, but it's honest. But if you think we're wrong, if you think we've misunderstood, if we have not looked our sources, you don't agree with the sources, you think that we misunderstood or took something out of context, please take a look at the description below where you'll see the links for everything we've just shown you. And we look forward to hearing your comments on this video. Tell us what you think. In addition, we look forward to seeing you every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, if you've liked this, you found it to be informative or interesting, please like, share, and most of all, subscribe so that you can be part of this experience of our First Amendment rights. I thank you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.